Hey YouTube, my name is Daniel and welcome back to my music streaming app series where I am building a music streaming app from scratch using Jetpack Compose and Firebase. In the last video we created the player screen and the animations. In this video we're going to be setting up the main activity and testing the app. So if you go over to the main activity, we first need to make sure that the main activity implements this interface here, which we created in the last video. So we can just add on music button, click here, and then right click, implement members. And we'll fill out that function in a bit. Now once we've added our interface, we need to add all of our values for our app, such as the isPlaying state, the track list, the current song index, and the value for when the track is buffering. So let's get those added. I'm just going to add a private modifier to this val here for the ViewModel. The first value we will add is the isPlaying value. And that is going to equal mutable state of false. Next, we will have a track list, which will be a var, and that will be a list of track. Then we will have a later init var for the current song, and this will be a mutable state of track. And this is a later init variable because we will only be initializing this when we actually receive the list of tracks from Firebase. After that, we want the clicked song, which will be a mutable state of track, but it could be nullable. So I'm going to initialize it as null. Next we will have the current song index, and I'm going to initialize that as -1. Then we have the turntable state, which will be a mutable state of false. Then we will have the isBuffering state, which will be mutable state of false. And then we will have another mutable state of false, which will be isTurntable finished. Then we will have a later init var for our list state, which is used in our horizontal lazy column for our album art list, and that will be a lazy list state. Next we will have the coroutine scope, which we will use to start our animations. And the last value will be the instance of our media player, which we'll use to play our tracks. And now we can get started on creating the main activity and laying out the UI. So underneath Observe ViewModel, we're going to use the method setContent, and this will set our composables. The first composable in here will be our jukebox theme, followed by a surface, and inside the surface it will have a modifier to fill the max size available. And now inside the surface we can start to initialize the list state, which will be, remember, lazy list state, and the coroutine scope, which will be remember coroutine scope. Then we want to initialize some values to open the track list dialog to show the track details, and that will be remember mutable state of false. After that, we can initialize the track list, and this will use our live data. So it will be ViewModel.TrackList.Observe as state. And now we can check if the track list is not empty. So if the track list is not empty, then we just add the nullable operator. So if it is empty, so if it's not empty equals true, then we want to show all of our UI. If it is empty, then we will show the loading screen. So loading screen in there, and inside here we will have another composable called main content, which we are yet to create, but we will pass the is playing value, the current song, in this state, the on music player click, which will be this main activity. Then we will need the current song index, the turntable state, the is turntable finished state, is buffering, followed by the track list. And this composable will also take a function, and it will return a song. And this will be used for when the user clicks on a song in the track list, and if they do, we will show the track list details in the dialog. So once that song has been clicked, we want to change the click song value to that song, and we also want to set open dialog.value to true. And now what we want to do is we want to create this function. So in order to create this function, it'll be easier if we actually remove these and add it back later. So if we remove everything in the brackets and also remove the on music button click, we should be able to right click, show context actions, and create function main content, and that will give us the function with all the values that we need. And then we just need to annotate it with @composable, and underneath we can add in our other parameters. So the other parameter will be on music button click, and the next one will be on track item click, which is a method we will use for when we are clicking on a track in the list, and that will take a track and it will return a unit. And all we need to do now is pass in the main activity for the on music button click, and for the on track item click we can add back our brackets, and we can add back our operations. So if the song has been clicked, we want to change the clicked song value to that song, and the open dialog value will be set to true. And for the track list, we just need to add the exclamation marks, as we know it will not be null at this point as it isn't empty. And inside our main content, we can start laying out the UI of our app. So first we'll have a column, Then inside the column we will have our title. Then after our title we will have our track list composable, and we can pass in the parameters. So is playing, the list state, the current song index, the overlay icon, which is our .drawable, .pause, so this icon here. Then the tracks will be our track list. Then the on-track item click will be the on-track item click. Then after the track list, we can add our turntable. Again, we can just pass in the parameters, so it is playing, and then we have the turntable arm state and turntable arm finished state. And the last composable for the app is the player. The track will be the current song. Then we will pass the is playing value, followed by the on music button click, which is the activity, and the turntable arm finished value, and the is buffering value. And that is it for the main content. As some of the values are initialized in the main activity, we don't actually need to pass them. And that's because this function is inside the scope of the activity. So we can actually remove these here, which is absolutely fine. So just remove the is playing and the buffering. That should sort that out. So after the main activity, we then need to override on destroy to release our media player, and we can do this by calling media. And I'm just going to rename that value up here, so media player should be called media player, not media. So in here we'll call media player.stop and media player.release. Then inside the observe view model, we want to first check if the track list is empty, is not empty. Then we will initialize the track list to the track list, like so, and then we can initialize the current song as a mutable state of track list dot first for the first element in that list. And we just got an action here, so move the lambda outside. Okay, and now we want to create a function for actually playing the music called play, and we need to wrap this in a try catch block, as the media player can often throw exceptions if something goes wrong. So we're going to catch the exception in here and just print the stat trace if we get an error. But inside here we first are going to check if this media player is initialized and we are playing a song. We will stop the media player and release all of the resources, and we will set the isPlaying.value to false. Then set the turntable arm state to false, and the isTurntable arm finish state also to false. Then, as we will start to play the song, we will set the isBuffering value to true, as this is the part where we'll start to stream the music from Firebase. We will initialize the media player as media player. We can then set the data source, which will be current song .value.track URL, Then we can prepare the media player, and we can do this asynchronously so it won't affect any of the UI. If you just call prepare, what that will do is it will run the main thread and freeze your UI. So you want to prepare the media player asynchronously. Then we want to listen for when the music player has been prepared, and we can do this by calling set on prepared listener. And once it has been prepared, we can set the isBuffering.value to false. And all these little changes to all these values will then create UI changes throughout our app. So when the isBuffering value is set to false, we will then no longer show the loading icons, etc., as the music will be playing. And we can set the isPlaying.value to true. And if the turntable arm state is not true, we want to set it to true. And then we can call mediaPlayer.start, and that will start playing the tracks. And this function will be called inside of the on music button click, and we just need another function for updating our track list to show the currently playing song, and we'll call that update list. And this will use that coroutine scope that we created earlier, and we will launch using the coroutine scope. And first we are going to check if the isPlaying value is true. We want to update the current song to isPlaying, and we want to animate the list of our tracks to that song. So list.animate scroll to item, and we can pass in the current song.value.index. And now we can start working on the on music button clicked function. So when the command, we can add in all of the options by hovering over here. More actions, add remaining branches. And first off, we will fill out the so let's remove all of these to-dos and get started on the play option. So first off, we will reassign the current song.value to the opposite of wherever it currently is. So current song.value is playing equals the opposite of the isPlaying.value. The current song index.value equals the current song.value index, and then we will play or pause the song. So we want to use a try catch block. And inside the exception, we will just print the stat trace, and we will also release the media player and set the isPlaying value to false. Inside here, we are first going to check if the media player has been initialized, and isPlaying.value is true. If so, we'll stop the media player, release the resources, and set the isPlaying.value to false. And if it wasn't playing, we will just run that play function we created earlier to start playing the track. Then in the skip section, we will first get the index of the next song. So var next song index, equals current song dot index plus 1, and then we want to check if the current song dot value dot index is equal to the track list size minus 1. So this is telling us if it's at the end of the list, and if it is, we want to go back to the first song. And we can do that by assigning the next song index to 0, then checking if the playing value is true. The current song index.value will equal 0. Otherwise, we will increment the current song value, which will be current song index.value plus plus. And this else block needs to be after this block here. So if the current value.index equals the track list side, so if we are not at the end of the list, we just want to increment the current song index. And we can update the current song, so current song dot value will equal the track list and the next song index. Then if the isPlaying value is true, we can then run the play function and call update list to update the list of our tracks and scroll to that item. Now for the previous option, it's pretty similar, so I'm going to copy and paste this, and I'll rename this to the previous song index and just replace the values. And what we want to do is for the previous song index, we will -1 for the current position. And then what we want to do is if the current song.value.index equals 0, so here we're checking if we are currently at the first song in the track list, and if it is, it will go to the end of the track list, so we'll go right to the back of the list of tracks. And that will be tracklist.lastIndex. Then if the isPlaying value is true, the current song index will equal tracklist.lastIndex. Otherwise, the current song value will be decremented, so we do -. The current song value will just equal the track list at the previous song index, and these two bits here will stay the same. So if we are playing a song, it will go to play, and then we will update the list. So that should be everything for running our app. I'm going to get the app running on the emulator, and let's see what we got. Now before we run the app, there's just some errors that we need to sort out in our project. Firstly, after the main content in the main activity, we just need to add our track details dialog with the clicked song and the open dialog as parameters, and this will show our track details dialog. Next, the other errors are in our player screen. So for the second error on the player, so the player composable function, and we need to go to the play icon, which is in these images here. So firstly we have the previous icon, then we have the pause or play icon, and the issue is on the musicplayer.click, we didn't pass in musicplayer option.play. It was originally previous, so just make sure that that is set to play so we can actually start to play our songs. The next part is the isBuffering value. This needs to be outside of the row composable, so outside of this bracket here, signifying the row, and the row contains all of our images. That progress overlay needs to be outside of that.
Otherwise what will happen is it won't take up the whole space. So yeah, just make sure you've sorted that. And the final error is part of our turntable arm. So if we scroll down to the turntable drawable function, where we start to draw our turntable, and the issue is the column and box should not be part of this row. It should be separate and laid out underneath. So if we remove these brackets here and then indent this back, that should be absolutely fine. And what I'll do now is I'll run the app and we'll see what we get. So I'm just running the app now, and firstly we should be able to see this loading dialog here to say that we are loading the track list. That should then disappear and our album art should pop in, and we should have this album art in the list downloaded from Firebase. You should be able to click on one of these album arts and it should show you the details of that track, and you should be able to click on any one of these and it will change to that track. Also, I've just noticed it is saying track number 21, but that should be an easy fix if we just go to the track details dialog and change this here, so track index, and just put this in brackets. That will make sure we do the actual equation, and if we just rerun that quickly, that should solve that error. And we can see that has now been resolved, so it is showing the correct track index. Now if we hit play, we should see the loading dialog, which we do, and once it then streams the track from Firebase, we can see the turntable arm animated and the record has begun to rotate, and all the animations are working fine. We have the music bars also animating here, and if we hit pause, they should stop. We should then be able to skip to the next track and hit play, and it will take a bit of time to stream that song from Firebase, but when it does, it will update and all the animations will start again and it will begin to play that track. And if I just increase the volume a bit more, we should be able to hear that track. There we go, so it's working absolutely fine. And you should just be able to skip, and if we're already in playing mode, it will automatically start to play that song again. So we can see the app here is working absolutely fine, and we have now completed this project. If you have any questions, please post them down in the comments. The completed code, as always, is in the description. Please like the video and please subscribe.